Since attackers are looking for victims and not fights, when you put up a fight, oftentimes that's enough. Today's video is brought to us by Firearms Legal Protection. Firearms Legal Protection is a legal defense program for lawful gun owners with a 24/7 emergency hotline and plans designed specifically for self-defenders. They are offering a discount on their plan to Asp fans, so hit the link in the description for that. Hi everyone, this is John with today's active self-protection lesson out of Minas Gerais in Brazil. Here we have a couple of crooks who think they've got an easy piece of meat, but that's just not going to be the case. So this guy's going to come from the left, and I think he's just going out to his car to get some things or whatever, but you can see the car coming up from the top left, and this is not a friendly encounter. So as he's kind of coming out and seeing what's going on, they're going to pile out of the car, but he's ready for him, gets his gun out in the fight, and as soon as he starts shooting, they start taking cover behind their car. Now you're going to notice he's going to put basically everything he has out on him until he's out, and as he gets back into the house, all three of those bad guys are going to run off, and he wins the day, and this one is over. I think this video brings up an interesting point, so I put a poll up in this one, and I'm interested about you. Do you carry a firearm when you're at home or only when you plan on leaving the home? Hit that poll and let me know what you think. Me, I got to admit, I'm about 50-50. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but stuff like this makes me think I need to get closer to 100%. Out of this one, I want to talk about home carry, whether it's wise, I think particularly when you're going outside. Number two, I want to talk about having that force multiplication and how multiple attackers aren't that big a deal if you have a force advantage. Number three, about marksmanship and about using your firearm effectively to end the threat and not endanger others. So let's talk about home carry here. The only reason this guy had his gun on him is because he had it on him in his house. Now, I know some of us don't always home carry, and that's necessarily not always a bad thing, but if you're going to leave your house for any reason, you better have your firearm on you, if at all possible. Having that tool on him gave him the ability to fight back here, gave him the ability to defend himself, and that's incredibly important. But just having a firearm on you is not enough. This guy also was out here and noticed that there's bad stuff coming, and so we want to think about awareness in this instance. Having that tool on your person is nothing if you're not aware of your surroundings and you're not ready to use it. This guy needed to have the mindset that says, I'm going to defend myself against a deadly threat, and I know how to flip the switch and go when the time is to go. Now you notice here that as we keep going, that he sees something's irregular. Notice that he looks down the street. It's midnight. He's not really expecting a whole lot of cars on his block. So he sees something going on and he pays attention to it. That's when you go from condition yellow to condition orange in your awareness, and you see the fact, aha, something's wrong. I need to pay attention to it or I need to investigate it. So time for gunfighting here. It's not, red or black or whatever. It's orange. It's, hey, what's going on? Let's see what's happening here. And that is likely the most important thing that saved his life here. Now, as the guy jumps out, this is our very first stimulus that something's wrong. They come up quick, guy busts out the door, and he's going to have to see our defender here is going to have to see the fact this is a threat. I got to draw my gun and go, and he doesn't have a whole lot of time to do that. In fact, he's going to get his gun out very quickly. In about 1.1 seconds, he's got his gun out and in hand. But notice what he has here. He has both hands on the gun because he has to chamber the gun. Now look at that bad guy and look at the position he's in. He's out with a gun in his hand, and because our good guy had to chamber a gun, he actually lost that drag race to the gun. He lost that drag race. However, even though that he was out, thankfully our bad guy simply wanted to point a gun at him and intimidate him, didn't want to actually shoot him. That said, you got to keep one in the chamber, friends. You have to keep that gun, ready to go, gassed up, because this amount of time and manual dexterity is not always available. Thankfully, didn't cost him here, but did cost him a wild shot. Notice our good guy had to, then move off and shoot wildly with one hand to keep from being gunned down. And so he just shot wildly with one hand on the gun. People put a single hand on the gun all the time, mostly because they have to chamber the round and then stick the gun out there as fast as they can and get to shooting with one hand. Another great reason to have the gun chambered is because then you can get out there and put two hands on the gun and be the most accurate and quickest that you possibly can. Now notice what he's going to do here. He retreats back in, but now he's going to get back out there, and I believe he fired 12 or 13 shots. And he's going to put everything he has in these guys. Now, I will say, I think you should carry the highest capacity firearm that you have. But notice here that he only has one hand on the gun, and I can't see what he can see from here. But those guys hiding behind the car don't look like a great place to be putting shots. So he's just probably firing in the direction that he thinks those guys are. And because of that, he's going to have a problem because he's going to run out. So make sure that you're training to recognize your target and manage your ammunition and not just fire blindly at the car. Now, thankfully, you notice here, he's out. That he fired, I think, 12 rounds, maybe 13 rounds, and his gun is empty. Now, I will say that this is one of the few times that I've seen in a CCW style gunfight somebody run out where the presence of a reload might have been a good thing. And I'm not telling you not to carry a reload, but perhaps he wouldn't have needed that if he had been a little more judicious and only fired when he actually had a target to fire at. At any rate, it was effective because he got out of there. Notice he didn't reload his pistol. He just got out of there when it was empty, and it drove the bad guys off. So even 1-on-3, which is what we had here, even with a significant personnel deficit, which is what we had here, this guy being willing to defend himself and having a tool evaporated the force advantage that the bad guys had and drove them off. So some technical things to think about here, some ways that we can maybe have done things a little bit better, but overall, I'd say that this homeowner did enough to cover his ass.